Hello, my name is Teresita Blanco Diaz's sister, and today we're starting Saturnastra Loki by Teresita Blanco, and this is Chapter 1, Part 1, The Blue Knight Loki. The night was crisp and cold, which was unusual for the fifth month of summer. And sitting by the lake was a slender figure clad in a black steel armor, and his helmet was removed, revealing his pale turquoise face. His almond-shaped eyes were like twin azurite, and his long braided black hair was like corduroy. And sighing, the knight looked at the star resting by his side with disappointment. And wiggling his humanoid ears up and down, he tried to listen to the strange sounds coming from the mountains. At first it sounded like a hornet's nest, like buzzy beat. But then the sound cleared and became more solid. It was the sound of a long pronounced sustained note of a trumpet, and lower pronounced sounds mingled with it. But all seemed to originate from the same ominous instrument, and it resembled somewhat the antics of a wind harmonica. Be that as it may, the sound was originated from living creatures, and looking behind him, he saw the fires burning of a nearby encampment. And there was an earnest whispering and staring by his fellow legionnaires, and one of the other members started laughing hysterically, and he ran in all directions to and from the encampment, and his silver hair in a frenzy. And this bizarre euphoria soon spread to the other men and women in the encampment, and the knight in the blue armor looked up at the night sky and saw a quaint little scene. And demons and gods alike were celebrating and dancing together, and bizarre creatures that had yet to be named were emerging from every hole and crevice in the forest. And they too sung and danced, possessed by the same feeling of euphoria. And a creature emerged from the lake. It had the visage of a drowned woman with bloated skin, white eyes, and the fragrance of a corpse lily. And the moss seemed to be part of her skin, and her dress was like the scales of an alligator garden. She said, "Sir Knight, why so gloomy? And I thought that you of all people would be jumping from the moon and back again some more. Pray do tell me, what is the cause of such jubilation?" asked the knight. "It is finally over. Moksha has been brought down, and with it all of the other so-called perfect creatures," explained the crone. "Ah, I see," said the knight, pouting his lips and scratching his forehead. He was quiet for some time, with his arms crossed and his eyes closed, and slowly a faint smile was painted on his lips, and when he opened his eyes, he had the gleeful smile of a toddler, and hugging and kissing the cheek of the crone, he started yelling, "It's over! It's finally over!" He ran back to the camp and joined the celebration, and most of the legionnaires still did not understand what all the fuss was about. They still had to march on Veragheron on the morrow, so this jubilation in the face of a major impending battle was quite quixotic. And the following day, the knight donned his helmet and marched beside the legion, and from time to time he could not help but laugh and giggle. And this insane behavior he was quite disconcerting, and pushing through his officers, he forced himself ahead of the army, and almost as if he were the leader of the Moon Legion. Frowning, the general said, "Whatever is the matter with you, Loki? Are you that eager to die?" "Nothing, I just really feel happy right now," said Loki, smiling, and he then removed the black band at the tip of his braided hair, which acquired the essence like blue flames, and holding the staff that was just for show, Loki ran ahead towards Veragheron with the legion trailing behind him. And from that perspective, it seemed like Loki was the leader of the army, when instead he was caught up in his own jubilant frenzy. And the legion had marched late into the battle, and the first walls had already been breached, and there was chaos in the residential streets. Time, bro?
11 minutes.
Instead of marching towards the castle, the human allies from the Western Kingdom and some of the freemen were wasting their time in their attempt to loot and pillage the capital, and since this was a violation of the terms of the campaign, Loki started killing them, and to save face he took on the form of a creature with a humanoid shape and black robes, with a hood like the skin of a leopard, and horns of a stag and the face of a goat, and the tail for good measure was that of a snake, with the hands and legs distorted like branches, with a blue armor over it, and the blue armor was what had become of his robes, and they served as a complement to his whimsical transformation, and he fell upon the traitors in a furious wind, yelling, and instead of his staff, he butchered them using whatever weapon he found on the ground. Following the old saying, "He who kills by the sword shall die by it," and as he progressed, he was soon joined by other strangers who were performing a similar task. And the same sequence of events repeated itself throughout the entire week, and by the end of it, some figureheads of Veragherons were placed on pikes in the walls of the main city, and under this note the fighting was technically done. Only the outer portion of Verageddon had seen much damage, and with the fighting concluded, Loki set about earning a well-deserved break. Time, bro?
9 minutes, 30 seconds.
He gave his general a letter of resignation, and he set about to wander as ever he pleased throughout the city, and the first place he visited was the mana pools of Verageddon. They were technically public hot baths, but none of the visitors knew their secondary purpose. The runes lining the walls of the pools drained and stored whatever magic residue was embedded in the fleshy or the oily bathers, and the baths with their new statues and marble columns were reminiscent of the architecture of the Greeks of old. And folding his arms, he studied the architecture with its eclectic mix of Doric, Ionic, and Hellenistic design, and the domes and the vaults, in addition to the colorful frescoes featuring twin goddesses, were just the icing on the cake. It was certainly pretty, but the core elements were centuries or AUs away from one another. Since he was there, Loki removed his armor and he went to take a dip in the pools, and for some odd reason they were glowing red, like blood. However, after tasting the water, he discovered that it was fresh and bubbly, like sparkly water, and the rosy color was an odd visual gimmick by the designer. While dozing off in the bath for a bit, the creature from the river manifested itself in the water, and the female bathers and a good portion of the men too ran screaming out of the Olympic-sized pool. And when the soldiers were brought, they seemed bored and unperturbed by the strange apparition. They returned to their posts, ignoring the presence of the strange, smelly bather. In the old days, they would have been all over the intruder, but after checking the guest book, the swamp crone had gone through the trouble of signing in and even paid the entry toll. And in every respect, the crone was a paying customer, so they had to tolerate her presence. Time.
8 minutes.
Resting her head on her hands, she said, "So what are you going to do now that the war is over?" "Just run the clock till it's time to return home," said Loki, staring at the noon sky. The arcades of the dawn above showed a cloudy sky, and from time to time the sun would appear, only to quickly be swallowed up by the dark clouds again. Smiling, Loki said, "Fair maiden, care to accompany on my explorations of the city?" "I do not wish to impose," said the crone, creating bubbles with her mouth. "Nonsense. If anything, it will be an honor, my most esteemed and loyal companion," said Loki, standing up in the water and offering his hand. The crone started laughing, and then she took his hand, and putting the armor which Loki brought out from within his hair and asked to a gentleman's outfit. And the crone commented, "Now that is an interesting little gimmick, and perhaps how is it that you manage to store clothing within your hair strands?" "It is nothing but a trite in comparison to the wonders that my dear brother Artsy can pull out of his hair," said Loki, smiling. Yes, we all know about the little fisherman. Pity I had yet to replicate such interesting storage methods with my ability," said the crone sadly. The tete-a-tete on magic, which was for chat. And storage units continued as Loki walked through the flowery white public roads of the inner city of Verageddon. And there was a symmetry to everything, and even the roads and signs with names and numbers, and it even had roads and signs and names and numbers to help you find your way. And as to every 10 blocks, diagonally and horizontally, there was a walled dragon tower, and at its base there was a map, and if this did not help you find your way, there was the occasional helpful little dragon that offered direction. And the only downside was that, depending on the humor, the dragon would guide you using landmarks instead of strict signs. And for example, the crone wanted to visit a good bar that produced decent craft beer with forest spices. And when asked about it, the little dragon was thoughtful for a moment, and then he said, "The bar you see is called the Poison Ivy, and you need a token from Jan-Jak to enter." "Who or what is a Jan-Jak?" asked Loki. Jan-Jak is one of the few remaining priests of vice and virtue. A priest of Neo, it is his job to moderate vices and preserve whatever virtue remains in this city. Without a token from him, you will not be able to enter the Poison Ivy. And those sailors had taken their little code way too seriously, but considering that they're one of the few businesses still left in town, I suppose they got some banking from the respects of their practices of meals, said the dragon. And after a long-winded explanation, the dragon finally gave Loki the address to both locations, and the pair started walking towards the first landmark, and based on the time of the day. There was a little ebony girl in a golden dress playing with a hula hoop. As she bobbed the hula hoop around her hips, she was counting. 497, 498, 499. And from the girl, Loki and the crone turned right, and continued the patio, they saw a weird pink-haired creature, and their face was elongated and similar to that of a possum, and it was 4 feet 7 inches, with large expressive green eyes and long eyelashes, and the creature was bipedal, with opposable tongues and a small hand and feet, with long thin fingers, and its body was covered in thick curly fur. Its head was braided and went down its waist, and the creature was dressed like a rainbow-colored harlequin, and the crone staring at it while the creature stared at her. So they were like, "What are you?" And then the creature's looking at the crone and be like, "What are you?" Time, bro.
4 minutes, 30 seconds.
While continuing to their next signpost, Loki had a green painted look on his face, and from time to time he would stare at the crone and laugh, and all the crow would ask, "What? Is there something on my face? Oh, it's nothing serious." "There is just a certain bit of irony if you think about it," said Loki, giving the crone a sly smile. The crone was quiet for some minutes, and then she said, "Oh." "My thoughts exactly," said Loki. The following landmark was a former prison, and the knights were in the middle of cleaning it out, removing the bars, and aerating out the blood-infested dungeons, and the scent of this putrid place alone made the crone bring out a scented handkerchief to cover her nose, and she asked, "What happened to the prisoners?" "Well, my dear brother does not believe in the prison system, so the residents are being executed, released, or exiled," explained Loki. "But what happens if someone breaks the law now?" asked the hag. "Nothing too serious, just a fine, free labor, exile, or execution," said Loki. "Huh. So what are they going to do with the prison building?" asked the hag. "I heard it's going to be turned into a public school," said Loki, laughing. The hag too joined in the merriment, and beyond the prison past the barracks they found the Temple of Neo. And the so-called temple was a modest house with only 1 floor, and it had an elegant greenhouse with colored geometrical shapes. And at the center there was a fountain, and the priest managing the temple opened his eyes and took in a deep breath when he saw the crone. And while he was cowering and holding his scissors defensively, the flowers perked up and blossomed as the crone entered within. And to put the priest at ease, Loki gave a warm, inviting smile and said, raising his hand to salute the man, "Hello, kind priest. My companion and I are in dire need of your most humble service." "What do you need, Sir Knight?" said the priest somewhat relaxing. His was still tense when looking at the creepy crone. "We seek one of your tokens. My friend is inking for some fine ale, and I hear tell that the best can only be found in the poison ivy," explained Loki. "Oh, and are you only there to drink and nothing else?" asked the priest. "Pray do tell me, what else is there to do in the poison ivy?" asked Loki, feigned bewilderment. "Sir, the poison ivy is a brothel, and I fear someone is playing a trick on you," said the priest. Time, bro.
2 minutes.
"Be that as it may, I still desire to visit and get my friend the promised drink," insisted Loki. "Before I give you a token, there are just a few questions I must ask, and depending on your answer is whether you will get the desired item," said the priest, putting his scissors away in his working apron. "As away," said Loki.
Wait, what were the scissors for?
That the guy was like in his garden cutting plants, and then these stranger people showed up and he was like, "Wow, creepy crone!" And then he was just brandishing his scissors as a weapon because creepy crone, creepy crone.
Oh yeah.
"As always," said Loki, gesturing with his hand. "Are either of you married or have a lover?" asked the priest. "I do not have anyone in particular, though as a knight I am constantly pressured to find someone to swear eternal love to," said Loki. The crone simply said, "That is none of your business. Just give us a stupid token before I curse your entire garden." "Fine," said the priest reluctantly. He added, "I was only asking because the brothel is only for singles and widowers, and for the sake of marriages, the owner does not allow married couples to enter within its walls. All customers must have my blessing before entering within." And the token received from the priest had a comical knight on horseback with a spear bent downwards. On top of it, it read...
Okay, that's brilliant.
On top of it, it read, once a night enough. And the back had the name of the brothel and small prints regarding the pricing and other amenities like drinks, music shows, and a warm bath to boost. And the priest of Mio gave a sigh of relief once Loki and his companion left, and he said to himself, "As handsome as the latter is ugly." So like, Loki's as pretty as the hag is ugly.
Why is he being mean to them?
Yeah, that was just a stranger's observation, both on their looks. Time, bro.
Less than a minute. Less than a second. What do you mean?